On today's Two on Your Side Town Hall, coming to Western New York, a biotech company plans to set up shop in Dunkirk at a spot where another company has sort of fallen short on expectations. A lot of taxpayer money involved here. It's been going on for years. We're going to talk with the founder of that company coming here in just a bit. Plus, another labor dispute getting national headlines, this one involving a big company based right here in Western New York, Rich Products. We'll look at what's the center of this disagreement. And a look back almost 60 years to the last postseason game featuring the Bills and the Patriots as we get you ready for this weekend, why it set the stage for some Bills success, and why it might not have actually been a playoff game. We have a lot ahead. We're glad you're here with us on this Wednesday. And in just a moment, as we mentioned, we're going to talk with the head of a company that is coming here to Western New York to take over a $200 million plant that was paid for with New York State taxpayer money. We're working on getting that live connection with him, and we'll have that top story coming up in just a moment. In the meantime, I want to share this with you. Western New York at the center of a labor dispute that's getting national news. Rich Products, which has its world headquarters off Niagara Street in Buffalo, owns the John Donaire Desserts plant in Santa Fe Springs, California. As you can see here, workers at the factory there have been on strike since November 3rd, mostly over their pay. Now the union employees are getting backup from some high-profile politicians. 7 U.S. senators, including Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, sent this letter to Bob Rich right to his address here in Buffalo. They urged him to come to an agreement with those union workers and end the strike. Here's part of the letter. They say that all the union workers are asking for is a $1 per hour wage increase each year for the next 3 years, plus respect on the job, a fair attendance policy, and no cuts to their health care benefits. The letter goes on to say that Rich Products is not a poor company. It is not going broke. Last year, it made more than $4 billion in revenue during the pandemic, and they tell Bob Rich that that made him $2 billion richer. Now, they are talking about him individually, and we're going to dig in on that a little bit. The Bloomberg Billionaires Index estimates Bob Rich Jr.'s net worth at almost $5.5 billion before the pandemic and almost $2 billion more now. The workers say the company's current offer of a 50-cent per hour raise for the first year would only cost Rich's $160 grand for all the workers for the entire year. They want more than that. Rich's emailed a statement to Two on Your Side this afternoon, pointing out that this is the first strike in the 77-year history of the company, and that almost 60 workers at that California plant decided to cross the picket lines to keep working. They took that 3% wage increase for each of the next 3 years. A Rich Products spokesperson said that it pays the workers above market wages for that part of California. You can read the company's full response. We have it posted right now on our website, WGRZ.com. Moving on the town hall, we talked first at 5 about the latest Labor Department report on inflation. It showed the biggest year-over-year increase since before I was born, and a lot of you watching. Prices up 7% compared to a year ago. Luckily, the monthly rate of growth has slowed, but this certainly has a lot of people concerned about their personal finances, which is why results of a new economic poll right here in New York State kind of surprised a lot of us. Siena College does a consumer sentiment survey every few months. Pollsters ask how people feel about the current economy, the outlook for the future, their concerns over the cost of things like food and gas, and how likely they are to make big purchases in the next 6 months. The latest survey found that New Yorkers are actually more optimistic about the state of the economy than the rest of the country. Siena poll director Don Levy says that that's pretty rare. He says people's outlook on the current economy hasn't really changed from the last survey despite growing inflation. And he says sentiment is up overall because New Yorkers just seem more optimistic over the long term.
With all the concerns over inflation, all the concerns over COVID-19 and the Omicron variant, that New Yorkers feel as though tomorrow is going to be a better day than today. Our future outlook is sort of buoying our overall economic confidence.
Levy says upstate and older New Yorkers, along with women, are most likely to be pessimistic about the current economy. And like you might expect, there is also a partisan divide.
difference. There's about a 25-point difference between Democrats and Republicans on the index of consumer sentiment. And Republicans also have an especially low view of the future at this point. Typically, if we see the party in power nationally flip, we see sentiment flip between Democrats and Republicans. For right now, Democrats are far more optimistic about the economy than are Republicans. Still, when you ask them about gasoline and food prices, party doesn't seem to matter. Both Democrats and Republicans are concerned about the cost of groceries and the cost of gasoline.
And he says a lot of New Yorkers plan to make big purchases over the next 6 months, buying things like cars and electronics. All right, now we want to return to that big jobs news for Dunkirk, Chautauqua County, and really all of Western New York. A pharmaceutical manufacturing company has agreed to take over the lease of a state-owned facility that's been in the works for more than a half-decade. It has not, however, lived up to the promise that it made for hundreds of new jobs. Is that going to change? In a moment, we'll talk live with the founder and executive chairman of ImmunityBio. That's the company taking over this lease. First, though, the important backstory, and you have to go back almost 6 years.
You know what today is? 1,400 jobs.
That was February of 2016. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo announcing that the state would pay $200 million to build the facility in Dunkirk. It was supposed to be ready to go within 2 years. Phoenix, the drug company that was to get the space, was supposed to spend more than $1.5 billion over a decade to create all of those jobs that the governor mentioned. Well, that didn't happen. The plant is pretty much built, but there have been major questions about when Phoenix would start production. The answer, it turns out, is never. Instead, Phoenix has essentially sold its rights to the lease to the other company that we mentioned, ImmunityBio. Local leaders are glad, and there are certainly high hopes that this will finally lead to those promised jobs and an economic boost at the Dunkirk site. And we are pleased to say joining us live right now is Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, founder of ImmunityBio. He also serves as executive chairman and global chief scientific and medical officer for the company. We so appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
So taxpayers and the community in Dunkirk, they've been let down a lot when it comes to this site. I know that was way before you got involved. So people are naturally wondering right now, what are your plans and when are we going to see progress there?
Well, I think what's exciting is that this plant, the foresight of the state to build such a magnificent plant, it really puts us, especially now with COVID, in a position for the plant to become a state-of-the-art biological vaccine producing facility and actually put the nation in a position of rapid response and preparedness for a pandemic. So that's the vision of what we want to do with this manufacturing plant. And clearly, in that context, jobs will ensue.
Yeah, in exchange for the state paying to build that plant, which you said is really world class, Phoenix had job goals that it needed to hit. I wonder, as part of this deal, are you required to do the same? And specifically, how many jobs do you think we can expect there and when?
Well, I think, yes, we've accepted the challenge of building jobs. And just to give you some history, we've been in Buffalo. We've been in a company called American Pharmaceutical Partners in Grand Island, where we took the company from 40 million vials to 150 million vials and increased the headcount there significantly. We can do this again, and the idea being now there's probably about 90 employees which we will immediately hire that are on site that can start the validation of the plant. And from there on, start developing what we call this next generation biologic manufacturing facility. And each of these efforts will require skilled workforce. And I'm excited to say that that's our mission and that's our goal. And we're ready to start running as fast as we can.
It would take me the full half hour that we have here to go over your resume and the incredible work that you've done in your career and also about your company. I know it's a little bit complicated, but what can you tell us about ImmunityBio? What it is that you do and what it is that you're going to be doing specifically at the Dunkirk plant in terms of the manufacturing there?
Well, ImmunityBio came as a consequence of my building two companies, Abraxas Bioscience and APP, in which I sold to Celgene and now Bristol Myers and to Fresenius. I left those with the idea that over the next decade, from 2010 to 2020, we would build an organization that could activate your immune system. I wanted to change the paradigm of how we manage cancer patients. I wanted to change the paradigm how we actually use vaccines, either for cancer, for HIV, or COVID. And the whole concept there was your body has a thing called a T cell. And until we can activate the T cell, we're not going to cure the cancer. And until we can activate the T cell, we're not going to stop transmission. And we're not going to be able to actually keep on fighting these mutations which you're seeing. So that's what ImmunityBio does. ImmunityBio has tried to understand how your body immune system works and build products to activate this immune system. What's exciting, we've now tested our theories across 17 novel products. We're in 13 phase 2, 3 clinical trials at the FDA. We've tested this in over 1,800 patients, clinical trials. And we're now bringing to Dunkirk specifically this next generation RNA called a self-amplifying RNA, in which we will induce T cells against COVID. And that's what the vision is for Dunkirk, to be the state-of-the-art biotech facility, manufacturing from scratch the drug, the vaccine, and then doing the finish fill and the freeze drying called lyophilization. That capacity is available now at Dunkirk.
I know in speaking with people who live in our region, down in Dunkirk, Chautauqua County, local leaders there, there is a lot of excitement with this news and this facility that's been sitting there for a while, and good to know that it's going to have good use. We've been speaking with the founder of ImmunityBio, which is going to be moving into that facility in Dunkirk. We hope as you have updates, you'll please keep us apprised, and we'd love to have you back on. Thank you for your time.
Will do.
All right. Have a good night.